We can pass the floor to Adrien Briod from Flyability and APFL. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Oops. So hello everyone. Well, thanks a lot for inviting me for this short talk. Today I'll present very briefly the origin of our company, which was in a research lab at EPFL in Switzerland, and what we're doing now and the state we're in. You'll see we're still a very, very young company. We were incorporated a few months ago. So of course, I have very limited feedback to give on how the transition has worked, because we're really in the middle of it, but I'm sure it will still be quite interesting. The motivation for the research we were doing in the lab, and the motivation basically that was the motivation of my PhD, was to send flying robots in very cluttered environments, such as this one that you see on the picture. After an earthquake, you have semi-collapsed buildings in which you don't want to send rescuers sometimes because it's too dangerous. The building may collapse, but you still want to go inside and look for potential victims or assess the damages and understand what's going on. So sending robots in these environments is really, really challenging. So it's extremely hard to locomote on the ground because of obstacles, but if you want to send a flying robot, it's indeed also very difficult because flying robots are very sensitive to collisions and crash to the ground as soon as they collide. So, Nathan, can you play video 1? So they are now very advanced, and you don't need the sound, by the way. So there are very advanced techniques that can fuse sensors on platforms such as this quadcopter that you see on the video, that is capable of generating a map of its environment while it explores it with lasers, ultrasonic cameras, stereo vision, and so of course that's a good candidate to have autonomous flying robots flying indoors. But still, the problem is sensors have limitations, and a misunderstanding of the situation on a flying robot is very dramatic, because as soon as you hit something, usually you break the robot, crash on the floor, etc. So even though there are these amazing research going on, we still cannot send a flying robot in a very cluttered environment where we're not sure the sensors will work because of dust, because of bad light conditions, etc., etc. So we've been looking at nature because we think in the lab of intelligent systems at EPFL that we can find lots of great ideas from nature, and of course you here in this class all are familiar with very familiar with bio-inspiration. And so typically you can play next video, Nathan. I've been studying flies, so these small insects, and studying how they collide into things, and that's what you see on the video here. It's a fly with a small motion capture markers on its back, and you can see it collide into this transparent wall over and over again. And I was studying how fast they can react and correct their attitude. And what in the end was the key thing that I found amazing is that, well, really flies are extremely good at coping with collisions. And you've all seen small insects flying into windows or white walls. That's because they don't have a perfect sensor suite. They cannot, sense everything and avoid all the obstacles. And what happens is that, well, it's really not too bad, because flies are extremely good at coping with collisions, and that's even part of their strategy to be very agile and fly without hesitation in the world. Well, you need, in fact, to handle these situations. So that was the inspiration for the gimbal flying robot. You can play next video, Nathan. And here, really, we did not copy the fly, but we found another way of coping with collisions with the flying robot by using the intelligence of the mechanics. So, of course, we're big fans of embodied intelligence. And so by decoupling the protective frame of the drone from the inner frame, you can really fly everywhere. Because the drone is never disturbed by collisions, only the protective frame is disturbed. You can even locomote on the ground and basically have an unstoppable drone. The other aspect is that it's very safe to fly close to humans and close to people. Typically, we fly it a bit everywhere and people love to interact with it, and that's very different from most conventional drones, which are basically flying landmowers and that are very scary. Usually you always see people kind of take a step back when a drone takes off. With the gimbal, it's quite the opposite, because it seems very friendly, and you want to actually interact with it. And so that was the result of the research, and so we were capable of showing that we could solve a very hard problem, which is flying through a forest, which people are trying to achieve by putting sensors on the robot to avoid the trees, for example. And in our case, we just showed that it was just enough to fly straight, and the robot would just bounce off trees once a tree would come along the path, and we would just be running behind the robot through the forest without any more control than just following a magnetic direction and keeping a constant altitude. And so that's a nice way to show how you can have a very intelligent behavior with only mostly intelligence in the mechanics of the robot, and while keeping a very simple controller. Okay, so I'm trying to go to the next slide. Of course, so then we put a video on YouTube of our platform and got a lot of amazing feedback from all over the world and so many different fields. And so I found an associate willing to start a company with me, and our first task was, okay, to figure out, what can we do with this robot? We had kind of a solution looking for a problem, because up to that point, it was last year when I finished my PhD, we were just trying to build a really cool robot without really economic intentions in mind. And we realized, well, there's interest from people around the world. There's surely something to do with this robot. And that's quite a difficult process, and we're still in the middle of finding our market. But we've spent many months talking to people, the ones who contacted us, the ones we thought would be interested by a product we could come up with, and in the end found out that there was a very interesting market for us in the industrial inspection. And so typically the pain there is that people spend a lot of time and a lot of money to just go have a look at some places that need to be inspected. There's a lot of visual inspection before anything else is done on all the infrastructures. And so these types of inspections are also dangerous for workers, because they are often sent to places attached with ropes or on cranes, or they have to build scaffolding, etc., etc. And this is, for example, the case when inspecting under bridges, inspecting power lines, and inspecting many other situations. And so in this field of industrial inspection, drones are starting to convince, and there are actually companies now using drones for inspection. However, they need to be kept very far from structures because, of this problem that drones crash once they collide into something. So what happens is that drones need to be equipped with very high resolution cameras to have enough information about the thing they want to inspect, because they need to remain far away, and they really cannot go in many places. They mostly stay outdoors and at least 5 meters from anything, and preferably where GPS is available. Typically under bridges, usually drones cannot fly because there's no GPS, etc., etc. So with a gimbal-like robot, we have the following value proposition. The gimbal is capable of accessing any place. It's really unstoppable. It's easy to reach something that is a place that is behind a pipe or behind structure, etc. It needs much less training than conventional drones because it's quite easy to pilot. You can afford making mistakes if you're the operator. Typically, conventional drones, if you make a mistake, you most likely break it because you collide into something. The gimbal is made to interact with things, so if you make a mistake, well, you just end up being stuck against a wall, which is perfectly fine. The gimbal can fly very close or even in contact with things, so you can get very high resolution pictures of what you look at. Typically, we have a 1.5 megapixel camera at 15 centimeters of a surface. So that means if you're inspecting a crack in a structure, typically, you have the same resolution as if you were at 1 meter with a 50 megapixel camera. And that's very interesting for many inspection tasks to have a very high resolution of the cracks you want to inspect. And finally, safety is a very interesting thing because you most likely read the news and read about drones crashing and being a security risks, regulations that will come in place in the near future, etc. Our drone is much safer than all the others. Like you could see on the video, it can fly close to people without being dangerous. And once it collides into something, it stays in the air, so it doesn't crash like the other drones that can damage something on the ground or damage the equipment. So, use cases are for flying indoors, typically, or outdoors, but close to structures and in confined environments, inside pipes, tanks, or chimneys. And so many things in different industries, like also in mines or under bridges. And we are currently experimenting in many situations to really see where the best product market fit is. I can show you a few of the examples, and Nathan, you can play the next video to show you the example of inspection that we've been running in a power plant boiler, where the gimbal is remotely operated and capable of going very close to these things that usually take a lot of time to inspect because you need to send people attached to ropes. And here the gimbal quite easily can reach the points of interest. Through the video link, the operator can decide where to go with the gimbal, go left, right, up, down, and can even use the contacts to navigate. So for example, once you're against a surface, you can easily go left or right, up and down with respect to the surface. Or here we were able to go all the way up of this big boiler room, and without really caring what altitude we were at, by just going up and reaching the ceiling. And once we hit the ceiling, we know we are at the top. And we can now play the next video. Another example of remotely operated drone. This time, the customers are interested in inspecting under bridges. And like you see here, again, in a few seconds, we have the capability to send a robot, take images, and typically this type of task would have required a worker going up with the camera and taking pictures of all these points of interest. And really, when you see the structure, you know that no conventional robot could be going in these places. All right, so we can stop the video and go to the next slide. Okay, so I'll finish with a bit where we are, the roadmap. So as I said at the beginning, we're at a very early stage, and we incorporated mid this year and transitioned from a research prototype to an alpha prototype, which has been improved based on all the feedback we got through interviews and discussions with prospective customers. And we're running these pilots, so experiments on the field, to be connected as much as we can to the future customers. We don't want to stay in the lab and think on our own about what could be useful. We really try to get as much feedback as possible, and every week or every 2 weeks have one of these pilots, which are experiments on the field with customers. And so we're currently raising a seed round in order to really prove the traction by selling early prototypes, early products, which we call evaluation kits. And so this will be, in a sense, a beta product sold to early adopters, which are key customers that we have found. And so we already have done our first sale and are still looking for additional key customers to whom to sell these early beta prototypes. And we plan to have, by end of next year, the first product on the market. Okay, I hope that you found this presentation interesting, and I'll be very happy to take any question.
Thank you. So, any questions?
Hi,
Yeah.
I would like to ask you about the autonomy of the system. How many minutes can we fly with?
Sure. So the alpha prototype can fly for 6 minutes, and the beta prototype will likely fly for about 10 minutes. It's interesting to know that so current drones used in inspection are, very commonly flying for 10 to 15 minutes maximum. And this is also why we found a good fit with inspection. It's because it's not something that is too sensitive to battery life, which is a little bit of a limitation right now on the platform. And so the batteries can be very easily swapped. So you could take the robots back home, swap the battery, and continue the inspection, which is acceptable. And actually, talking to some drone pilots, they like to have a break after operating the drone. For 10 minutes, it's a little bit tiring, so take a break, change the battery, and fly again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you add an additional payload or additional cameras? Would this be possible?
So currently, we have an about 30 grams payload, which we use for video link and HD video camera. We could have, lighter cameras and have more of them, or no video link and have more cameras. As long as we stay in this range, yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, we should be talking maybe sometime.
Sure, yeah. Be happy to.
So, other questions? No, I think that I have a quick comment. So I think that it's interesting from actually many of the things that we say, the fact that how you achieve the safety of your drone in this prototype, in this system, by an elastic cage, right? So basic. So sorry for super simplifying. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe you can. And this will give an idea how the morphology, or about how the morphology matters. So in this way, you get rid of an enormous amount of problem, because the drone, as Adrian was saying, can be harmful to itself, and okay, but the drone could also impact someone passing by, and this is less. In the case of this system, without a lot of but algorithmics, you can actually avoid that. Maybe you could, Adrian, if you want to spend 1 minute, because it's not only the elastic cage, you also have a nice structure inside. No?
Well,
Which
yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
The fact that the rotating cage is decoupled from the inner frame with 3 axes of rotation with the gimbal system makes the whole difference. Indeed,
Yeah.
if if you have, maybe I have the slide here that Nathan can bring up. If you have a conventional drone that is rigidly connected to its protective frame, let's say, well, as soon as there's a collision, there's a torque that provokes the rotation of the drone. Okay, I'm trying to bring up the slide, but I cannot find it. Anyways, there is a drone that, if it's rigidly attached, that will tilt, and the propulsion system will not face upwards, and the lift will be lost, and so you will basically have the drone falling a little bit like a rock from the sky. And so this is the image you can see right now on the screen, maybe. So with the decoupling of the protective frame, you always keep the drone very stable in the air with the lift pointing upwards, even after contact. And that makes it much safer because, well, after a crash into an obstacle, after a collision, it stays in the air, while another drone may fall to the ground, gain speed, damage something on the ground or people on the ground, etc.
Yes, just because a naive observation could be, oh, you put it in a cage, but it's the cage plus the gimbal.
Correct, yeah.
It's a very nice idea. Very interesting idea. So I don't know if there are other questions or comments, or so if there are not, I think we can thank again Adrian for the great talk, and so we can also close here. Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
And we can close today's session. Next